John gave me a nod, and I lifted the ram once more. He held his hand up as I approached. "Do you have a dolly? A baby?" he asked, a moment of inspiration. "You do? Could I meet her? Could you go and get her for me?" John's flat stop hand turned to a go point. I planted my feet and swung at the Yale lock, and the ram battered through, taking part of the door frame with it. The door crashed open, slammed against the wall, and swung defeated on its hinges. Angry splinters jutted like fangs from the frame's edge. John's torch lit the dark-haired girl standing in a carpetless hall in pyjama bottoms and a grubby vest top. A grim-looking doll, wearing only a blue bonnet, hung from her hand. The astonished look on her face quickly dropped, as did the doll, as she began to sob. I dumped the ram and approached cautiously, trying not to frighten her any further. The smell from the flat was stifling. Nothing specific, just general filth and neglect. I flicked my sleeve over my hand and held it to my face, something I would learn in later years to be a mistake. Experience would teach me the best way to deal with smell is just to breathe normally. The nose becomes accustomed quickly. Any efforts to avoid the stench are futile, and only serve to prolong the discomfort. "What's your name, sweetheart?" My voice came out funny from my reluctance to breathe through my nose, so name sounded more like dame. I pulled her hands from her tear-streaked face, but she didn't reply. I lifted her and asked again. Her hands moved to my shoulders, holding me at arm's length, though she didn't otherwise resist. She looked at me for the first time. Her wet eyes scanned my face in the gloom. They were quickly drawn to the yellow light beaconing from my radio. She ceased crying now that she had found this wondrous toy on my shoulder. I turned the radio off so she couldn't activate the emergency button and handed it to her to play with while I waited for John to search the flat with his too-small-for-the-job torch. Mine was no better, and the large torch in the car hadn't been charged by whoever had used it last. "My name's Don," I said to her, "and that funny man over there is John. What's your name?" "Carly," she said, more to the radio than to me. "That's a pretty name. Where's your phone?" I was still hoping that this was to turn out as 9 out of 10 dropped calls did, an accidental or mischievous dialing of treble 9, resulting in some finger-wagging and corrective advice. This hope was growing thinner with every passing second. "Mummy's room." "Is Mummy there too? Can you show us?" I asked. She pointed down the hall where John's torchlight bobbed and spun. "John, she's going to show us," I called. Carly pointed to the furthest away door closed over. "Better stay there," said John. I nodded and began asking Carly about her nursery. Apparently her teacher was Miss McPake, and she was nice. She had yellow hair and a blue car. John returned to the hall. I raised my torch to see him shaking his head, a foreboding expression on his face. Mummy wasn't a-sleepin'. John riffled through the contents of a purple purse he had found, looking for the woman's details. He reached for his radio, giving our call sign. Control acknowledged, and I carried Carly back down the hall. She didn't need to hear what John had to say. As we passed back along the hallway, Carly tugged at the collar of my stab vest. "Baby," she said. I looked around the floor and spotted the dropped doll, and handed it to her, swapping it for the return of my radio. I turned it back on and inserted my earpiece. John was passing the grim news. "That's confirmed, Control. No suspicious circumstances. Door was locked from the inside. No signs of struggle. No wounds." "That's received. Echo 3-3. I'll update supervisors. Do you require detectives?" "Negative. I'll email them the incident for the morning meeting. Can you just confirm social services are en route? Oh, and we'll need a joiner to resecure a wooden door." "Roger, 3-3. Carly fell asleep in the car once it had warmed up. I had coddled her in my uniform fleece, and she was snoring gently. John had dabbed at her face with a sanitation wipe from the first aid box, only succeeding in making her look grubbier with the streaks of clean skin standing out in contrasting hue to the rest. "What did you find?" I asked John, now that I safely could. "The mother in bed, stiff and cold, some pill bottles and charred foil."